I grew up in a modest house on the edge of the city. Nothing fancy, just brick walls, a squeaky gate, and a small garden my mother tried to keep alive with pots of marigolds. My father was a strict man, a provider, but never affectionate. My sister, Hania, and I often leaned on each other because the warmth we needed didn't always come from him. Still, I thought we were a family bound by truth, even if imperfect. That illusion shattered with one sentence: "Did you move into the villa yet?" At first, I laughed nervously. "Villa? What villa?" I asked, trying to match his tone. But the way my father's brow furrowed told me it wasn't a joke. He looked at me as if I was playing dumb, as if I should already know. And then my eyes shifted to Hania. Her fork slipped from her hand, clinking against the plate. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came out. She just sat there, pale and stiff. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. My chest tightened. A cold sweat formed on my neck. Something inside me whispered that I had just stumbled into a truth I was never supposed to hear. "What villa?" I repeated, this time sharper. My father's eyes hardened. He cleared his throat and muttered, "Forget it. Eat your food." But how could I forget it? Just like that? That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My mind spun in circles. A villa. My father had never once mentioned owning another property. We were always careful with money, or so I thought. I remembered all the times I asked him for support when I was in college, struggling to pay rent. He always said things were tight. So why did the word villa fall from his lips like it was nothing? The next morning, I cornered Hania in the kitchen. "What did he mean last night?" I asked, keeping my voice low. She avoided my gaze, pouring tea into a cup like it was the most important task in the world. "Hania," I pressed, "look at me." Her eyes flickered up, and I saw fear swimming in them. "It's nothing, Adil. Don't make it a big deal." "Nothing?" My sister had never been a good liar. I knew then that whatever this villa was, she had known about it all along. And I hadn't. For days, the question gnawed at me. At work, I couldn't concentrate. At night, I replayed the dinner scene in my head like a movie stuck on repeat. Every little detail screamed betrayal: the way my father dismissed me, the way Hania froze, the way my mother stayed silent like she always did. It was as if the three of them shared a script, and I was the only fool who didn't get a copy. Finally, I decided I couldn't live with half-truths anymore. One evening, I confronted my father. He was sitting in the living room, flipping through the newspaper. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out, "Tell me about the villa." His eyes narrowed. For a long time, he didn't say a word. The ticking of the wall clock filled the silence. Then he set the paper down and leaned forward. "It's none of your concern." None of my concern. That cut deeper than anything else. I wasn't asking about a stranger's property. I was his son. Why wasn't it my concern? My fists clenched, nails digging into my palms. "So Hania knows, but I don't? Is that it?" My father's jaw tightened, and his silence was confirmation enough. My heart pounded in my ears. Rage and hurt tangled inside me until I couldn't tell them apart. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about a villa. It was about where I stood in his eyes, what I meant to him compared to my sister. And the answer burned like fire: less. That night, Hania knocked on my door. She stepped inside, hesitant, holding her phone in her hand. "Adil," she whispered, "you weren't supposed to find out like this." Her words sliced through me. Weren't supposed to find out. Which meant they all knew. They all agreed to keep me in the dark. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my throat was dry. All I could manage was, "Why?" Hania's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, "Because the villa was never meant for you." Her words hit me harder than any slap. Because the villa was never meant for you. My chest tightened, and I felt the ground tilt beneath me. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but all that came out was a bitter laugh. Never meant for me? What does that even mean, Hania? Am I not his son too? She shook her head quickly, panicked, like she regretted saying it aloud. Please, Adil, don't make this worse. But it was already worse. Every second of silence, every half-truth, every stolen glance between her and my father had already cut me open. Hania, I said, my voice breaking, just tell me the truth. I can't keep walking around blind. I need to know what's going on. She sat on the edge of my bed, twisting her fingers like she was trying to strangle the guilt out of them. After a long pause, she whispered, Baba bought the villa years ago. He said it was for me. A place I could call my own once I got married. He didn't want you to know, he thought you wouldn't understand. The words stung like salt in an open wound. So my father, the man I had defended countless times when people called him cold, the man I believed treated us equally, had chosen my sister over me. He had hidden something this big because, in his mind, I didn't deserve to know. I turned my face away, afraid she'd see the tears welling up. Why her? Why not me too? Why not both of us? She stayed silent. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did, and she couldn't bring herself to say it. The silence was answer enough. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing my father's voice telling me it was none of my concern. I kept seeing my sister's pale face at the dinner table. And most of all, I kept replaying her words, the villa was never meant for you. The next morning, I left the house early. I couldn't stand being under the same roof with secrets pressing against the walls. I walked aimlessly through the streets, trying to clear my head, but every step was heavy. I thought back to all the sacrifices I had made, working part-time jobs in college, paying my own way, never asking for more than the bare minimum. I had done everything to lighten my father's burden. And yet, he had rewarded silence and secrecy with generosity, just not toward me. By the time I returned home, anger was boiling in my veins. I couldn't hold it in anymore. My father was in the living room again, sipping tea. I stood in front of him, my voice trembling but louder than it had ever been. Why her and not me? Why do you hide things from me as if I'm not part of this family? He set his cup down, slow and deliberate. His eyes locked on mine, unblinking. Because you don't need it, Adil. You are a man. You can build your own. Your sister needs protection, security. That villa is hers. I felt like someone had ripped the air out of my lungs. So that was it. In his eyes, I was a man, strong enough to survive without his support. My struggles, my pain, my sleepless nights, none of it mattered because he had decided I could carry the weight alone. Do you even hear yourself? I snapped. You had a chance to make me feel like your son, and instead, you made me feel like an outsider in my own family. My voice cracked on the last words, but I didn't care. Let him see me raw. Let him see the scars. For the first time, his expression faltered. His jaw softened, and something almost like guilt flickered in his eyes. But it was gone in an instant. He picked up the newspaper again, dismissing me with silence. That was the moment I knew. No matter what I said, no matter how loudly I screamed, I would never change his heart. He had already chosen. I walked back to my room, my body trembling with rage and sorrow. Hania stood in the hallway, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. But apologies couldn't rebuild what was already broken. Over the next few days, the house felt suffocating. Every corner held a memory, every meal felt like sitting in the shadow of a secret. I realized I couldn't stay, not if I wanted to breathe. So I packed a bag. When I told my mother I was leaving, she just lowered her eyes, as if she had been expecting it all along. She pressed a small prayer bead into my hand and whispered, "Take care of yourself." That was her way of saying she loved me, even if she couldn't stand against my father. As I walked out the door, my father didn't look up. He didn't stop me. He didn't even ask where I was going. That silence was my final answer. I left with nothing but a bag, my dignity bruised but intact. And as painful as it was, I realized something important. The villa was never mine. But maybe it wasn't supposed to be. What I truly inherited was the strength to stand on my own 2 feet, to build a life where secrets couldn't crush me and silence couldn't define me. The villa broke us, yes. But it also freed me. It showed me that blood isn't always thicker than betrayal, and sometimes the only way to find your worth is to walk away from those who refuse to see it. And that was the day I stopped being just a son desperate for my father's approval. That was the day I became my own man.